was you one of the few people who still saw within these movements the potential of political currents that could come into the mainstream, that could be supported by the mainstream?
Yeah, you see, I proceeded from my understanding of Marxism as such, because it gives priority to the aspiration of the people themselves, not what we want them to be, but what they themselves want to be. That is how I looked at this problem. So I saw this Adivasi problem had some problems of their own. They wanted to come into their own. So they have every right to do that. We have only to help them to, to give up the sectarian excesses of their point of view. We should take a positive view, help them to become involved with and allied with the left movement. So I saw my role in that light, a sort of go-between with the Adivasis movement on the one hand and the left movement on the other hand.
So I would look at it today as a positive contribution because you kept people like us uh, uh, when we were being categorized as or dubbed as imperialist agents. You kept having or showing hope in the few individuals within the so-called common spaces, I will say, who were intervening in the issues that the Adivasis were bringing out. Uh, Today, how do you look at it? When it's now almost 20, 25 years, how do
I,
you look at it?
I feel I played a minor role in correcting these things, both within the left and within the Adivasi movement. I helped the left to take an more or less a more unbiased view, and I helped the Adivasi movement to take a pro-left point of view.
The present phase of capitalism uh, has is the next phase after the whole welfare capitalism, Keynesian variety of capitalism. It is also a phase where capitalism has got more violent. It's blood-seeking, and therefore the expropriation of natural resources has been stepped up, affecting mining, an issue that we are taking up in Jharkhand today. Uh, and the Adivasi groups are resisting their lands being alienated. Uh, can you give us some reflection on this particular phase of capitalism where it has become a big monster?
You see, I am not in a position to generalize, but I am not prepared to concede that it has become more brutal and all that, because it is being faced with more widespread resistance all over the world also. So there are more, powerful forces to checkmate this negative development. So it is a zigzag process. I won't say that it is a straightforward movement towards greater brutalization and exploitation. There are always checks and, you know, all that. But naturally, as the crisis intensifies, its own dynamics will lead it to seek greater exploitation. But as I say, there are more powerful returning factors also that we should take note of. Secondly, so far as the Adivasi people in India are concerned, they are today more, you know, they have a greater solidarity consciousness among themselves. And they have also been able to win some sort of tacit or, you know, unspoken sympathy and support from wider section of democratic movement also. So it is possible to resist this process more successfully in the coming days. And this should be the starting point of the Adivasi people's movement. This hope of being able to check this process.
Then would you think that the present dialogues and debates or changes that are taking place in the traditional communist parties is sufficient enough to absorb this?
No, I won't say that. But a process is beginning for opening up. So the pressure should continue, the dialogue should be intensified, and other forms of, mass movement would also be allowed to grow up independently. So altogether this will lead to a further, you know, opening up of the communist
So,
movement.
Comrade, then would you say that today, where the contradictions are more sharper, the hopes are much more brighter?
This is the law of contradiction. If one thing grows, it gives rise to the other thing also. But it doesn't follow automatically that they would accelerate at the same rate. It depends on our conscious intervention. To what extent the contradictory factor grows to be able to checkmate it. So we should be aware of our responsibility.
Uh, then, can you give us some uh, more uh, views on what should be the role today of the people working with indigenous communities? What more can they do to accelerate this process, or and what can the communist parties also do to?
You see, these days I am not able to follow the development in depth, so I can't give you specific, indication. But I will say this much, that we should on both sides, we should realize that on their own they cannot move ahead. So they have to seek cooperation, collaboration, and help from each other. So how to advance this process is a matter of day-to-day development.
Thank you.
Welcome.